If a crow can plan for a future it hasn't seen yet, remember a face for 17 years, and hold a grudge, explain to me again why we're the only species with a mind. Not a brain, a mind. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The line between us and them was never drawn by biology. It was drawn by us. And the tests we built to prove it keep failing in the worst possible way. They keep proving the opposite. Let's start with the crow. In 2002, researchers at Oxford ran a simple experiment. A New Caledonian crow named Betty needed a hooked wire to pull food out of a tube. There was no hook available, just a straight piece of wire, so she bent one herself. No training, no demonstration. She looked at a problem, understood what shape she needed, and manufactured a tool on the spot. The study was published in Science, and it forced a question the field had been avoiding for decades. What exactly do we mean when we say only humans think? Here's where it gets uncomfortable. For most of the 20th century, the gold standard for self-awareness was the mirror test. Psychologist Gordon Gallup designed it in 1970. Put a mark on an animal's body somewhere it can't see directly, show it a mirror, and watch what happens. If the animal touches the mark on its own body instead of the mirror, that's evidence it understands the reflection is itself. Chimpanzees passed, dolphins passed, elephants passed, and then in 2008, a European magpie passed too. A bird! With a brain the size of a walnut, structured nothing like a primate brain, evolved on a completely separate branch of the tree of life for over 300 million years, and it looked in a mirror and understood that was its own reflection. That shouldn't be possible under the old model. Self-awareness was supposed to require a certain kind of brain, a big one, a mammalian one, a primate one. Nobody told the magpie. So here's the pattern worth noticing already. Every time we've drawn a hard line and said this is what makes humans unique, something on the other side of that line has stepped over it. Now, let's talk about the octopus, because this one is stranger than people realize. An octopus has roughly 500 million neurons. That's comparable to a dog. But here's the part that breaks how most people think about brains. Only about a third of those neurons are in the central brain. The rest, nearly 2/3, are distributed through the arms themselves. Each arm can taste what it touches. Each arm can problem solve semi-independently, reaching into a space, exploring it, reacting to it, without the central brain micromanaging every motion. Some researchers describe it less like one mind controlling 8 limbs and more like 8 semi-autonomous systems loosely coordinated by a central hub. We don't have a good word for what that is. It isn't a human mind distributed differently. It's something else entirely. Intelligence that evolved on a completely separate branch in a completely separate shape and still ended up capable of solving puzzles, opening jars, and in multiple documented lab escapes, remembering the layout of an entire facility well enough to break out of it. Let that sit for a second. Now go bigger. Elephants. Researcher Cynthia Moss has spent decades studying elephant behavior in Amboseli, Kenya. One of the most well-documented behaviors her teams observed, elephants will return repeatedly to the bones of dead herd members. They'll touch the skull with their trunks. They'll linger. They'll investigate the remains of individuals they knew in ways they don't with the bones of elephants they never met. That's not a trained behavior. Nobody rewards an elephant for doing that. It costs energy and offers no survival benefit. The only honest explanation left on the table is one science has historically been reluctant to use: grief. And here's the crow again, because this part is the one that should really bother you. In 2006, researcher John Marsloff at the University of Washington had his team wear a specific rubber mask while trapping and briefly handling wild crows for tagging, an unpleasant experience for the birds. Years later, crows in the area would scold and mob anyone wearing that exact mask on site. Not any mask, that one. Follow-up observations tracked the behavior spreading. Crows who'd never personally been trapped learned to recognize the threat mask from other crows and reacted the same way. And the memory didn't fade quickly. Reports of the response persisting have stretched well over a decade. Some accounts put it at nearly 17 years. A bird held a grudge against a specific human face for almost 2 decades and taught that grudge to its children. So here's the actual question underneath all of this. If tool use isn't unique to us, if self-recognition isn't unique to us, if grief isn't unique to us, if facial memory and long-term social learning aren't unique to us, what exactly is the thing we keep pointing to when we say humans are different? Primatologist Franz de Waal has a term for the reflex that keeps us from asking that question honestly: anthropodenial. The refusal to attribute human-like qualities to animals, not because the evidence doesn't support it, but because acknowledging it would cost us something. Our sense of hierarchy, our sense of specialness, our place at the top of a ladder we built ourselves and then declared to be objective. That's the uncomfortable part. It's not that the science is unclear, it's that admitting the science is clear requires giving something up. Now, to be fair, and this matters, there are real differences. Humans build cumulative culture across generations in a way no other species has replicated at scale. We have generative language, recursive grammar, the ability to communicate abstract hypotheticals no other species has demonstrated. Those aren't small things. A crow can bend a wire. It cannot explain to another crow in the abstract why bending wire works using a concept it invented 5 minutes ago and expects to be understood decades later by crows who never watched it happen. So the differences are real. But notice what kind of differences they are. They're differences of degree, of scale, of complexity, of accumulation.
They're not differences of kind, not the sharp categorical line we like to imagine, with minds on one side and mere instinct on the other. And if the line was never that sharp to begin with, the real question isn't why are humans smarter? It's why did we need the line to be that sharp in the first place? Maybe because a fuzzy line is harder to build an identity on top of. Maybe because we are meaningfully different is a more comfortable story than we are further along a shared spectrum, using tools other minds are quietly catching up on.
The crow that remembers your face for 17 years isn't impressed by your vocabulary. It's not keeping score on your side of the line. It just knows what it knows, the same way you know what you know, through a brain built by evolution, running the best model of the world it can manage with what it has. The only difference might be that ours came with a story attached, one that says we're the exception. If you've ever assumed animals experience the world in some dimmer, lesser version of what you do, that assumption might be doing more work than the evidence actually supports. Next time you catch a crow watching you a little too closely, consider the possibility that it isn't confused about what you are. It might just be remembering.